Hello students, welcome to our online video tutorial class. So I think the previous video you have already seen on the excretory system. There we have discussed about the excretion in plants. So after that I have made this video. In this video we will be discussing about the excretion in animals specifically, and within animals specifically human being. So first of all, let's see. We will be discussing about the structure of the kidney at first. What about the structure of the kidney? We all know in case of kidney, the outer layer is well protected by a covering that is commonly known as renal capsule or kidney capsule. Why this specific layer or capsule is present? To protect the inner structures of the kidney. Now the second thing is that if this kidney capsule is present at the outer layer, after that this specific peripheral portion or the boundary portion of the kidney is commonly known as the cortex or the renal cortex. Now second thing is that after the renal cortex, if you come to the middle portion of the kidney, you will see that is commonly known as renal renal medulla. So this specific renal medulla is the portion that is the medium portion of the middle portion of the kidney. Now the point is this renal medulla is composed of so many pyramid-like structures. Those are commonly known as renal pyramids. So this is the ureter. We all know when the ureter has entered within the kidney or releasing from the kidney, there is a common passage, okay, in between the renal pyramids. These are the renal pyramids and the ureter. So that common passage is commonly known as renal pelvis. Okay, so from the renal pelvis only the ureter has come out, and this is the common passage in between ureter and renal pyramid. So these specific structures or these specific satellite structures are known as renal pyramid. Now the point is why these pyramids are present. These pyramids are actually present for allocating the place for the nephron as well as other kidney tubules. Okay, because kidney tubules including nephron and other structures all are present within this renal pyramid, and from there they have come out and they have opened in the pelvis region, and from there it is just entered or it is just joined with the ureter. Now the thing is that this specific entire structure of the kidney, if you see carefully, this entire kidney-like structure is almost a bin-like structure. Already I have told also in the previous video. And another more important point is that ureter is just joining with the pelvis region. Okay, we have understood that. So for that case, there is a groove-like structure. There is one groove-like structure has been created at the junction of the ureter, okay, and actually you can say the space which is present in between renal capsule and the ureter, that is a specific space that is commonly known as renal hilum, or rather that is a groove which is created at the junction of ureter and enter the structure of the kidney. So this is the overall structure of the kidney, where we have to keep it in our mind whatever the point. That is outer covering, that is known as renal capsule, then renal cortex, that is the peripheral portion, then the middle portion, that is the renal medulla. Renal medulla is strictly made up of some pyramid-like structure or satellite structures. Those are known as renal pyramids. Those renal pyramids are actually containing the nephron as well as several other kidney tubules. Next point is that these renal pyramids are all joined in a common area, common passage. That common area is known as renal pelvis. From the renal pelvis only the ureter has come out. Now the point is this renal pyramids, or rather in between the renal capsule and the ureter, there is a specific junctional area. That junctional area is commonly known as renal hilum, or it can be also considered as a groove, that is renal hilum. Now we are just going for the next point, that is the structure of nephron. That is the structural and functional unit of excretory system, or kidney rather. So let's see. First of all, please see here, whatever the two portions of the nephron, there are two portions. First one is renal corpuscles, okay, and another is renal tubule. Renal corpuscles means there is a cellular structure present within the kidney. So this renal corpuscle is commonly made up of two portions. One is glomerulus, another one is Bowman's capsule. This can be also called as Malpighian corpuscles. Okay, so this is also can be called as Malpighian corpuscles or renal corpuscles. Okay, Malpighian tubules not, because Malpighian tubule is the excretory organ in case of insects. Okay, so don't just mix up the Malpighian tubule and Malpighian corpuscle. So Malpighian corpuscle or renal corpuscle is the first part of the nephron, and that is cellular in structure. Next part is the renal tubule. So Malpighian corpuscle or Malpighian or renal capsule or corpuscle is commonly made up of two portions. One is glomerulus, second one is Bowman's capsule. Third one, that is the renal tubule, or rather the second part, that is the renal tubule, that is commonly made up of so many tubular portions. What are the tubular portions? First one is PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. Second one, loop of Henle. Third one, DCT or distal convoluted tubule, and fourth one is collecting band. So let's see these specific portions in the nephron structure. So this is the ideal nephron structure. structural unit and functional unit of the excretory system or rather kidney. So first we have talked about renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. Whatever the parts, glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. So let's see. This is the glomerulus portion, which is none other than the network or the mass of blood vessels. Okay, it is not anything else. It is only the mass of blood vessels or is a mass network of blood vessels only. Afferent arteriole which has entered within the glomerulus, and this afferent arteriole is carrying the impure blood, specifically the renal artery which is entering within the kidney. That is actually branched into multiple afferent arterioles, and those arterioles are actually carrying the impure blood and entering within the glomerulus. And you can also see that from the glomerulus another duct is also moving out, that is the efferent arteriole. Keep it in your mind, this efferent arteriole will be containing the pure blood because the impurities have entered, suppose within this specific renal tubular portion. So the pure blood is coming out through the efferent arteriole, and keep it in your mind, this is so many efferent arterioles from so many nephrons, they will get accumulated and forming what? And forming the structure that is known as renal vein, which is coming out from the kidney to outside, and that is carrying the pure blood. So we all know. So afferent arteriole through which the impure blood is entering and coming within the glomerulus portion, and from there the purification or the filtration is happening, and after that the pure blood is just moving out through the efferent arteriole, and from all of the toxic substances, impurities, they are coming within the next cup-shaped portion, which is actually holding the glomerulus or the entire blood vessel, mass of blood vessel, that is commonly known as Bowman's capsule. Okay, so the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule, I think these two portions are very much clear to everyone. Now the point is very important point here, we have to keep it in our mind when we are drawing, that afferent arteriole will be little bit more diametric than the efferent arteriole. Why? Because through the afferent arteriole the impure blood is coming in huge velocity. Okay, so for that reason obviously the diameter of the afferent arteriole should be more, but in case of efferent arteriole, why the diameter is less? So that the blood which has actually impure blood which has actually come to the glomerulus, it can't move out in very quick manner, because if it will move out through the efferent arteriole in very quick process or in very quick time, automatically you can understand one thing, just utilizing by common sense, you can also say that the blood can't stay within the glomerulus region for a long time, and if the blood will not stay in the glomerulus region for the long time, what will happen? The filtration of the blood, it will not happen properly. That means automatically the blood which will be moving out through the efferent arteriole, that will also carry the impurities whatever it was brought by the afferent arteriole. So whatever the impurities brought by afferent arteriole, those will be released through the efferent arteriole if efferent arteriole diameter will be similar with the afferent arteriole, but it is less. For that reason, blood can stay within the glomerulus region for a long time, a little bit more time, so that the filtration process can happen properly, and after that in very slow manner the pure blood will start moving out through the efferent arteriole. Now I am just coming to the next portion, that is the renal tubule. What is renal tubule? After Bowman's capsule, the next part which is present, you can see, is the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. It is a coiled portion, you can see. So this is the first part of renal tubule. After PCT, next portion is coming loop of Henle. This entire portion is loop of Henle, this entire portion. Okay, and it is U-shaped portion. Keep it in your mind, in this loop of Henle there are two limbs. One is descending limb, another one is ascending limb. This one is coming down, that's why descending limb of the loop of Henle, and this is moving up, that's why it is the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. After that, the next specific tubular portion, that is another coiled portion, that is DCT, distal convoluted tubule. Why it is proximal? Because it is present nearby to the renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. That's why it is PCT. But this coiled portion of the renal tubule, it is distantly present from the renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle. That's why it is distal convoluted tubule. This distal convoluted tubule is connecting with a little bit more diameter containing duct, where multiple nephrons are also getting connected, that is the collecting duct. So these specific branches, whatever I have shown, these specific branches are actually incomplete branches. These are actually connected with another so many nephrons. Okay, now the point is how this specific structure of nephron is responsible or helping in the process of excretion, or how the urine is getting formed. So for understanding the mechanism of excretion, or from understanding the mechanism of urine formation, we have to discuss about these three steps. What are these three steps? First step is glomerular filtration, second step is tubular reabsorption, and third step is tubular secretion. What are these specific steps? Let's see. First, listen carefully. First, when the impure blood is coming or is entering within the kidney through the renal artery, After that, the renal artery is getting branched into multiple small arterioles, and those specific arterioles are commonly known as afferent arterioles. And now those afferent arterioles will be entering within each and every nephron, and they are getting joined with the glomerulus. That means the impure blood is coming within the glomerulus. Now the blood is staying within the glomerulus for a little bit time. Why? So that the filtration can happen properly, because I have already mentioned you the diameter of the efferent arteriole is so much less than the afferent arteriole, so that the blood can't move out with its impurities. So the blood, when it is staying within the glomerulus region, keep it in your mind, this specific layer or this specific membrane, this is the basement membrane. Okay, this is commonly known as basement membrane of Bowman's capsule. So this is actually semi-permeable membrane. So for that reason, what is happening? Various kind of impurities, they are actually coming within the Bowman's capsule. Not only impurities, with that glucose, amino acid, ammonia and several other important substances also with glucose and amino acid, they are also coming within the Bowman's capsule. So impurities have also come within the Bowman's capsule, as well as several essential substances have also come within the Bowman's capsule. Now, so the glomerular filtration, I think it is very much clear. That means from the glomerular filtration, what you have understood, filtration is happening, but 100% filtration of the blood is not happened by the help of glomerulus. So for that case, tubular reabsorption is very much necessary, and tubular reabsorption process is also there, because we have just now told that from when the blood is coming out from the, specifically when the blood has come to the glomerulus, from there impurities are also coming in the Bowman's capsule. With that, several essential substances like the glucose, amino acids, they have also come within the Bowman's capsule. Now, glucose, amino acid, water and several other toxic agents or toxicants, they have come to the PCT region. Keep it in your mind, this PCT region is exclusively for the reabsorption of the glucose, amino acids, so many other important substances with water, because water will be absorbed conformably in this PCT region. That means we can understand that essential substances, not all, but whatever the essential substances have come from the Bowman's capsule to PCT, maximum percentage of that essential substances have absorbed from the PCT within the blood. One more thing I want to say here, that keep it in your mind, this entire renal tubular portion is always wrapped by a network of the blood vessels, so that from any of the red portion of the renal tubule, any substance will be reabsorbed or secreted. That is always happening in that exchange is always happening in between renal tubule and the blood vessel. So whatever the essential substances, including the water, it will be get reabsorbed from the PCT portion to the blood vessel, which is wrapping that PCT. After that, if you see this descending limb and ascending limb of the loop of Henle, specifically keep it in your mind that in the PCT region, in the descending limb of the loop of Henle, again the various kind of some mineral ions as well as water, those things will be getting absorbed properly. Clear? Specifically, you can say here the various kind of mineral substances will be specifically the water will be getting absorbed from the descending limb of the loop of Henle. So when the water will be get absorbed from the descending limb of the loop of Henle, automatically what is happening? The concentration of the urine is gradually increasing, because keep it in your mind, first of all, what has happened in the PCT portion, the water has absorbed. Water has been absorbed. With that, several essential substances has been absorbed. So for that reason, already the concentration of the urine has been increased. So throughout the entire descending limb, more water has been reabsorbed. So when the more water has been reabsorbed, automatically the concentration has been increased quite more. And in this point, the concentration of the urine, it is showing maximum. Now, when again the ascending limb of the loop of Henle has been started, from specifically in that portion, various kind of ions like the sodium, chloride, potassium, this kind of bicarbonate, various kind of other ions, they will start reabsorption from the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. And when the reabsorption will happen in the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, automatically what is happening? The concentration of the urine, it will again start reducing. Because here you have seen throughout the entire pathway, the concentration of the urine has been increased, but when it will be again moving upward through the ascending limb, obviously you can see the concentration of the urine is gradually again reducing. Now, when it has been gone to the DCT portion, specifically DCT portion also the water remain absorbed. So when the water will be reabsorbed from the DCT portion, that means again keep it in your mind, again the urine concentration will start increasing, because already it was from the PCT portion. Again think carefully, in the PCT portion what I have told, water will be reabsorbed and several essential substances will be reabsorbed. So automatically what is happening? The concentration of the urine will start increasing from this PCT portion. In the descending limb, more water has been reabsorbed, that means concentration has been increased more. Now when the ascending limb has come, so through the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, so many ions, so many salt ions, anions and cations, they have been absorbed. That means when the salt has gone from the urine, automatically the concentration of the urine again will start losing or reducing. Now when it has actually the DCT portion has come, the DCT portion specifically, again the water reabsorption has been stopped, and for that reason again the concentration of the urine has been increased. Now when it has come to the collecting duct region, in the collecting duct again the reabsorption of the water is continuously going on, and for that reason the concentration of the urine has been increased more. Always keep it in your mind, what is the target of the nephron? The main target of the nephron is to produce concentrated urine, because if you will produce diluted urine, keep it in your mind, you are losing so much amount of water from your body, that will not be fruitful for your survival, because when the water is losing from your body, obviously with that several ions are also just moving out from your body. So for that reason, for maintaining the osmoregulation in our body, always the urine has to be concentrated. More water will not be released from our body, so that we can sustain properly our body equilibrium as well as our body homeostasis can be maintained properly. Now the point is tubular reabsorption. We have understood PCT portion, loop of Henle, DCT portion and collecting duct. These all portions are responsible for reabsorbing various materials, including the essential material, water, various ions and all these things, and producing the highly concentrated urine. But last thing is that tubular secretion. In this specific step, what is happening? Specifically in the DCT region, distal convoluted tubule region, so many substances, impure substances, those are not required for us. Those are toxic substances. So those are releasing in the DCT region. So when they will be releasing in the DCT region, automatically, before entering the urine within the collecting duct, the urine is getting all the toxic substances from the DCT. So we have understood one thing, all the toxic substances not only coming in the Bowman's capsule region, they are with the toxic substances, so many essential substances were there also. So those things get reabsorbed throughout the entire pathway of the renal tubule, as well as more toxic material, more waste products will be getting added into the nephron in the DCT region, so that when the urine will be coming in the collecting duct, it will be containing very least amount of water, very least amount of ions, but more amount of toxic agents or nitrogenous wastes. I think the entire process of the excretory mechanism or entire urine formation process, I think you have understood. First of all, the filtration from the glomerulus to Bowman's capsule, on that time various essential substances as well as non-essential substances, that is toxic substances also have come. Obviously the main target is to release the toxic substance, but with that several essential substances like the glucose, amino acid, those have come into the PCT. In the PCT region, those essential substances, the major percentage of the essential substances has been reabsorbed and water has been reabsorbed, so that the concentration of the urine, it will start increasing. In the loop of Henle descending limb, there also the water has been reabsorbed more, so that the concentration will increase more. In this point, the maximum concentration of the urine has been shown. After that, when the urine will start moving up to the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, there the salt ions has been taken out from the urine. Automatically the concentration of the urine, it will start again losing, and again when it has come to the DCT region, in the DCT region maximum water will be get reabsorbed. That means again the concentration of the urine, it will start increasing. Now the point is, after this part we will be just coming another last part I have already told, tubular secretion, that is a secretion of various materials in the DCT region, so that when the urine will move out to the collecting duct, it will contain maximum toxic agents. Now we will be coming to the last portion, that is the kidney disorder, a disease. One and only disorder most of the time it is found, that is the renal failure. Except renal failure, there is more other diseases related with kidney stone is also there. But renal failure we will be discussing according to our syllabus. So renal failure is what? Renal failure is when the kidney is not functioning in a proper manner. The proper purification of the blood is not happening. After functioning of the kidney also, our blood is carrying so many waste products, nitrogenous waste, and for that reason we are suffering from various kinds of infectious diseases. So for that reason, that specific problem, when the kidney is not functioning properly or malfunctioning, then it is known as renal failure. Let's see whatever the reasons for this renal failure. First reason can be the infection in the kidney, so that it can't properly function, these nephron parts will not function properly. Second, injury in the kidney. Keep it in your mind, if the kidney will get injured for any kind of internal hemorrhage or for any of the accident, obviously it can't function properly. If for any individual the blood pressure is high, when the blood is flowing through the artery, the pressure is huge, obviously kidney will or kidney can't understand how to properly filtrate the blood because the pressure of the blood is quite high. So for that reason, high blood pressure patients have the problem of kidney failure. High blood sugar also, in case of which specific individual the sugar level is very high. After the reabsorption from the PCT region and from any other region also, entire glucose will not be getting reabsorbed. Okay, few amount of glucose will be releasing through the urine. That is commonly known as glycosuria. So high blood pressure or high blood sugar students, high blood sugar patients, specifically through their urine, the sugar is releasing or the carbohydrate is releasing. That is commonly known as glycosuria. That's that specific problem. Next, restricted flow of the blood to the kidney. If the blood flow to the kidney through the renal artery or renal vein, that will be get restricted, then also the problem can happen. Because if the blood will not enter within the kidney, how the purification will happen? Because blood is only carrying all kind of toxic materials. Now coming to the point, that is treatment for this type of diseases. What can be the treatment? The kidney can be transplanted. Maybe the non-functional kidney, which is not for providing proper function or malfunctioning, that can be replaced by the new one, functional one. Or there can be another procedure, what is known as dialysis. This is very easier process, means I mean to say that dialysis is the most common process. We all have listened about this process, that who has the kidney problem, they are for them we are performing, the doctors are performing dialysis. But let's see what is the mechanism of dialysis. First of all, I have just written few points: radial artery, serpentine tube, isotonic fluid, radial vein, refilling of the dialysis chamber. So you can't understand by seeing these points only. I am just describing you. See carefully. Suppose I am suffering from the problem of kidney failure, or anybody is suffering from the problem of kidney failure. So when I will be going to the hospital, obviously doctor will be prescribing me to perform the dialysis. So what has to be done? I will be just lying down on a bed. Now from my hand there should be two specifically one specific artery is present, another vein is present in this region. That is called artery is radial artery. It is present in the hand, that's why radial artery, and the vein is radial vein. We all know that artery is mostly carrying the impure blood, so for that reason obviously the blood will be collected from the radial artery. So through a one injection, one tube will be connected, and through that tube the impure blood or the waste product containing blood will be taken from the radial artery. After taking that blood, it will be passing through a serpentine tube. Keep it in your mind, the blood will be taken through a tube, and the tube is actually serpentine. Through which tube the blood is taken? After that, that specific tube is connected with a serpentine tube, and that specific serpentine tube will actually is kept within a vessel. Suppose this is a vessel, I am just trying to draw, and within that like the serpentine tube is present. Okay, and this serpentine tube is connected with another tube which has come from the renal artery, which is carrying actually the waste blood or impure blood. Now this specific chamber, this is commonly known as dialysis chamber. So within the dialysis chamber there is a fluid that is commonly known as dialyzing fluid. It is kept. Okay, dialyzing fluid is kept. Keep it in your mind that when the blood is passing through this serpentine tube and outside there is a dialyzing fluid, this dialyzing fluid and blood both are isotonic. Okay, because both are containing showing the same concentration both fluids we have taken. Within the tube the blood, and outside there is a dialyzing fluid. So when the blood will be passing through this serpentine tube, keep it in your mind, from the serpentine tube the various kind of waste products from the blood it will start releasing outside. Outside means within this dialyzing fluid, because the tube which is actually made, that tube is commonly made up of semi-permeable substances, so that through the process of diffusion the excretory material or waste products which are actually present within the blood, they can release out where? Release out within the dialyzing fluid. So like that, when the blood is passing through the serpentine tube, another more important thing is that why the tube has been kept serpentine, why it is not straight tube? Because keep it in your mind, if the straight tube will be kept, the blood will pass through the straight tube directly in very quick manner. Obviously blood will not be getting so much time for further filtration. The excretory material from the blood, it will not be released out into the dialyzing fluid if the blood will pass in a huge velocity. So if the pathway will make little bit serpentine, so what is happening? Blood will be going in a slow manner through the serpentine tube, and when the blood will be passing through the serpentine tube in a slow manner, automatically diffusion of the excretory material within the blood or to the outside, that means within the dialyzing fluid, that will happen in a proper manner. Blood can stay within the dialyzing fluid for a long time, so automatically the excretory material can release out within the dialyzing fluid properly, because blood is moving in a slow manner through the serpentine tube. So when the excreted material or waste products or nitrogenous waste will be releasing into the dialyzing fluid. After that, what has been done? This tube has been connected with another tube. That tube is actually connected with another vein that is known as radial vein. So the various excretory products, waste material, when they have come out from the serpentine tube in the dialyzing fluid, then the pure blood will be returned into the radial vein and then it will be circulated within the body. Now the point is, this dialyzing fluid has got polluted because from the blood various kind of toxic agents have come out and mixed within the dialyzing fluid. So what we will do, we will just refill the dialysis chamber. That dialyzing fluid which is already polluted, that will be released out. One cap is there that we will open so that the dialyzing fluid will move out, and there is another valve or stopcock like structures. We will open that so that the new dialyzing fluid which is isotonic to the blood, that can again refill within the dialysis chamber. Again the dialysis chamber will be used and entire the system is ready for the next patient. Again the next patient will be lying down with the radial artery. The tube will be connected. That tube will be joining with the serpentine tube which is present within the dialysis chamber, and within the dialysis chamber dialyzing fluid is already there. So when the blood will be passing through the serpentine tube, obviously it will be taking more time because the blood velocity will be getting slower. So due to getting slower the velocity, automatically the various kind of toxic products, they will be again start coming out from the tube, that is serpentine tube, into the dialyzing fluid. Next, when the blood will be get purified, it will come out. Come out means through the tube it will be just sent to the renal vein, which is again distributing the pure blood within the next patient's body, and the fluid which is getting dirty or which is getting polluted due to releasing the various kind of toxic matter from the serpentine tube, that specific fluid will be again changed. Okay, so like that the dialysis process will be happening for each and every patient in a sequential manner. So I think the entire process of dialysis you have understood, and now you can just correlate these words with the mechanism. Radial artery we have understood, radial vein also we have understood, serpentine tube which is present within the dialysis chamber, isotonic fluid, that is the fluid, that is the dialyzing fluid which we have taken within the chamber, which is isotonic with the blood. And next thing is that refilling of the dialysis chamber. Why? Because that is not get polluted. So through a top tap, that specific polluted fluid will be released out and the new fluid will be filled within the chamber and it will be used for the next patient. So I think the entire portion, whatever I have taught in this entire video, we have understood properly. First we have discussed about the structure of kidney, then we have discussed about the entire structure of the nephron, which is the structural and functional unit of excretory system, or rather kidney, as well as we have also discussed about the points which are written. We have discussed about the mechanism of excretion or mechanism of urine formation, how the urine is getting concentrated throughout the entire pathway of the renal tubule, in the PCT portion, in the Lupopelli portion, in the DCT portion, whatever the materials are reabsorbed, as well as in the collecting duct also, whatever the materials are reabsorbed, whatever the material is secreted in the DCT region, so that the urine is getting more toxic material before entering within the collecting duct. So those all things we have discussed here. Next we have come to the kidney disorder, that only one disorder is kept in our syllabus, that renal failure. Reasons we have discussed, with that the treatments also we have discussed. First one, kidney transplantation, that is a permanent solution, but if the permanent solution cannot be done, on that time dialysis in a regular interval we have to do for that specific kidney failure patient. So I think the entire video we have understood properly, and if there will be any type of query, obviously you please ask me, don't hesitate to ask. And another thing is that I think in this video you have enjoyed a lot, so thank you everyone.